Trick or treat, here we are, ding dong, Lily Zhao, Brandon Cruz, Tim Van Voorn, the Green Bay Packers with another defeat this afternoon in Lambeau Field. That's the starter on our starting lineup. It's a tough watch for sure. The Packers go down for the fourth straight game. The Vikings get them this time. It's hard to tame Dame as the Bucs begin their season on a high note, but then they play tonight. Craig Counsell heading to the Big Apple for an interview. Will he go back there? The Badgers hobble away after a loss to Ohio State, and we finish up with our high school hotshot.
It's frustrating, man. I'm frustrated. Everybody in that locker room is frustrated. Plain and simple, we're not winning. We're losing games, and it's all games that we should be winning. I think that we're right there. It comes down to a play here, a play there. That that everybody in that locker room, we're not executing enough, and we're not making those plays, and it's frustrating, and everybody's frustrated. But the question is, what are we going to do to change that?
And the answer is, who knows?
Right.
The Packers have a lot of questions. Somebody came back to the sports office this week and asked me, what do I think of my chances, the Packers' chances this weekend in advance? I thought, why is it even a question? I mean, you're going to see what we've seen the last couple of weeks, and that's exactly what happened today. Lily Zhao, you were up there. It was a drop zone for the Packers offense.
It really was. And when you're talking about a Packers team that has struggled offensively, right? Anything that they're doing to, hurt themselves is not going to bode well. When you're talking about a Packers team that wanted to move the chains, they started the game with 4 consecutive 3-and-outs. It was because they had penalties and they had drops. And that's certainly not going to help this young Packers offense move the chains at all. And that's what they had, and they couldn't overcome it because getting 10 yards was a monstrous effort for this offense. And again, for example, Jordan Love escapes pressure, throws a great pass to Romeo Doubs on the sideline, makes a great catch, but it comes back, doesn't count because of a penalty. They do this multiple times, and they were flagged with more. They had 11 penalties and only 10 points, and that's not a stat that you want. But again, self-inflicted wounds. You had a drop there from Luke Musgrave. That would have been a first down as well, and all that kind of just mounted into no points, and then a field goal at the end of the half. But that's not playing winning football. And when you're playing teams of a caliber that can score the football, you're really putting yourself behind the 8 ball, and that's exactly what they did again today for the 4th straight game. Regression,
Brandon. That's a tough thing to watch for Packers fans.
It is, and the problem, too, is like you said, the penalties, the drops, but also the fact they just can't move the ball, and the defenses are just waiting for the Packers to do whatever they're going to do because they feel like they can stop everything coming their way. If Jordan Love's going to throw, the receivers are completely blanketed. If the Packers are going to run, their offensive line doesn't create enough holes, and you don't see any movement forward. And then all of a sudden you start moving back. It just doesn't bode well for this offense. And to me, the one thing that this coaching staff needs to do, and I keep saying it, I feel like this is 3, 4, 5 weeks in a row, they have to find more play calls. They're going to get this team a chance to move the ball. Running the ball right up the middle against a defensive line that's beating your offensive line when you need a yard isn't always the answer. Get a little more creative. But again, I think that this team just can't find anything to hang their hat on and build from at this point.
Okay, so let's go on that note. I'm going to ask both of you. I'll start with you, Brandon. We see the problems out there. Is it realistic for this team to be better than it is?
I think so. I think that's where the discipline comes in. I think that's where you try to eliminate the penalties. That's where you try to make sure you run the right route. That's where you try to make sure you hold on to the ball when the ball is thrown your way, and then you make that extra effort or that extra block or whatever you have to do to create something. And I think this goes down to individuals now. Not that anybody's quitting, not that anybody's not trying their hardest, but these guys individually have to reach down deep inside themselves and find out what they can do to make themselves accountable and play better each play, each snap, each time that they are on the field, because it doesn't feel like that's happening collectively.
Is it realistic, Lily? Are they too young, too early in the season? Too banged up?
Right. I think this is a team that doesn't want to use those excuses as a reason why they can't improve. And like Brandon touched upon, if this is a team, and these are young players that know their assignments, they know where they're blocking, they know where their routes are, they catch the football, this is a team that can move down the field and score a touchdown. We know it's possible. They've won 2 games this year. It's not like they haven't won a game, but again, when every player on that field is not executing at their highest level, be it 1 or 2 or 3 guys, they can't move the football. And that's what they need to do. It's just they talked about today in the locker room, we need to execute the little things, the details. And that comes with just gaining experience, but also not shooting yourself in the foot with those penalties. And this team will be the first one to say we don't want to rely on the youth factor as an excuse for why we've dropped 4 straight games. But you have to believe, had this been a more experienced team, maybe these things don't happen. But these penalties certainly shouldn't be coming this late in the season, especially in such bunches with this team. But if they can clean these things up, I think it's feasible that they can turn things around offensively.
Certain degree of optimism there from Lily. Look at the final stats of the day, though. The Packers dominated by the Minnesota Vikings even after Kirk Cousins goes out of this game. And the bottom one that stands out, it's the bottom line a lot of times, is time of possession. The Packers just cannot keep up with teams. They don't have the ball enough. They work so hard to get down the field for so few points. It's a tough way to watch football. It's a tough way to play football, and there's a lot of football left ahead this season. It's halftime on the Blitz. That means it's time for the Insta poll tonight. You can go directly to the question. All you have to do is scan the QR code on the screen, or you can go to fox6now.com. And what is the biggest contributing factor to the 4-game losing streak? Your options are discipline, injuries, offense, defense, coaching. Brian Gutekunst.
You know, I think anytime your team is encouraging you to be yourself and do what you do when it's so early, it helps. But, you know, I think I've had enough conversations with guys, especially with Giannis, where I know I came in knowing what was expected of me, you know, when these type of situations came. And they're encouraging me to be the person to take control and make decisions and, you know, decide what's going to happen in those moments. And that's what I'm here to do.
That's Damian Lillard. Bucks with a very impressive, uplifting win in their season opener and a depressing defeat tonight against the Atlanta Hawks. So glass half full, glass half empty, both?
I think it's still half full. I mean, it's game 2 of an 82-game season. I think it is strange, though, to see Damian Lillard go for 39 and take control of the 76ers in the opener to only go 2 of 12 shooting and get 6 points against the Hawks in a game that isn't as hyped, that doesn't have the national attention that Thursday's game did. But again, it's only game 2. Chris Middleton didn't play in the game tonight against the Hawks as is a knee injury management. He's expected to play against Miami tomorrow. And that's another game that kind of, to me, raises things up because of the rivalry that's been established between the Bucks and the Heat. So to me, Dame's just fine. He just didn't have a good shooting night, and things just didn't fall their way.
A whole lot fell the Bucks' way early in the week, though, with Giannis Antetokounmpo agreeing to the contract extension to stay here in Milwaukee. That was still this week. A lot of the news cycle, things fly along. You were there as he spoke with the media about the press conference, at the press conference, and about the contract extension, Lily. And the takeaway for most people was Giannis kind of saying, well, this is what I want to do. It's as simple as that. Yeah, believe it or not, Giannis wants to stay a Milwaukee Buck, right? He had said all offseason he will sign and be a Milwaukee Buck for life if, again, the team stays winning. And, of course, the general manager, John Horst, and everybody in the front office really took that to heart, and they said, we're going to commit to you, Giannis. We're going to bring in Damian Lillard, and we're going to commit to you. And he said, hey, that really was kind of a little bit of a part of why I wanted to extend. But at the end of the day, he wanted to be in Milwaukee. They showed a good sign of faith with bringing in Dame and committing to him and the team to say we're still going to be in NBA title contention. And at the end of the day, he said, well, 3 weeks prior, today or this year isn't when I'm going to sign. It'll be next year. You can make more money that way, too. But before the season started, he talked to his older brother, Thanasis, who said, listen, get this thing signed, get it done, out of the way, focus on basketball, because then you're just not going to be a distraction to the team. And that's exactly what he wanted to do. And at the end of the day, he signs it a couple days before the regular season, and now we can just talk football or basketball. And he bounced back with some big numbers tonight. So we've talked about Giannis, we talked about Damian Lillard. We know some of the other main faces on this Bucks team. Brandon, who's the X factor? Who's the one guy that might be underrated right now who could help this team pop up a little bit? I think it's Malik Beasley. We saw him again tonight, hit a couple of big threes. They got them into the game. I mean, they were kind of blown out pretty early by the Hawks tonight. But in the second quarter, he hits a three that makes it a 1-point game. And he seems to just really have a lot of confidence out there with this group of starters. And to me, that's what you're looking for in a player like that when you have Giannis out there, when you have Dame out there, when you have Chris Middleton and you have Brook Lopez. Malik Beasley can really start to open things up and create a name for himself and create problems for defenses if he's able to hit those shots. And then defensively, he's been there as well. So to me, he's the X factor, and so far so good even in a losing effort tonight. And Miami comes in on Monday night. We talked a little bit about that, and there's definitely a history with this rivalry.
Yeah, especially after the way that the Bucks got bounced in the first round of the playoffs. I know it's probably still fresh for Bucks fans and, of course, the team, but that's going to be a fun one. I mean, Jimmy Butler coming to town and, the Marquette alum trying to do his best to win another game against the Milwaukee Bucks. But again, this is a Bucks team that says we're still a really good team. We're still going to be East contenders, so they want to show it off at home against Jimmy Butler and the Heat early in the season, and we'll see what they can do. But this Heat-Bucks rivalry, it's been really fun to watch. There's a lot of fireworks when these two teams play.
Butler never plays against Minnesota. It'll be interesting to see if he plays against Milwaukee. Adrian Griffin, early takeaway on the new Bucks coach?
I think everything seems fine. Today was a little interesting to see how he was trying to stop the Hawks, but it was the fact that they just couldn't they couldn't stop the transition offense of the Hawks. And, I think it's still where, we talk about this group of five and the other guys coming off the bench getting used to one another. He's doing the same thing. He's getting used to time management. He's getting used to trying to switch things up when momentum isn't on their side. Tonight it didn't work. We'll see how it goes, but I think the guys still believe in what he's doing, and I think that's the most important thing at this point.
The 3-game homestand to start the season does wrap up tomorrow night with the Heat. We'll see how the Bucks do there. Speaking of being at home, how about Kewaskum native Jordan Stoltz? What a weekend for this guy. 4 golds, a silver at the U.S. Speed Skating Track Championships, the long track events at the Pettit Center. He was just rocking it. He's been training at different distances. He's just opening eyes all over the place. Green Day's Miles Newman also setting a personal record in the 500 meters. Great to see the folks out there at the Pettit Center getting a nice crowd for the weekend and some terrific individual performances. We're back with more in a moment.
I was telling everybody go home. I was like, go home, man. Why y'all still here?
That's a good question.
I mean, give me a little, prep time for a question like that. It's a little cold for butterflies to be out right now.
Okay, yeah, it just ruined my night.
Day does that star spangled banner yet wave?
And how about Flavor Flav downtown tonight, singing the national anthem and bringing the noise with them, but not bringing a win. It is good to see Flavor Flav and the Bucks trying to, entertain the crowd as they get this season going. They are 1-1. But let's shift gears now to baseball. And one of the things we've been talking about during the season, even before the season, during the season, during the postseason, now after, Craig Counsell. He gets permission to go and talk to the New York Mets, the Cleveland Guardians as well. Is he going to go, or are we still in the same spot we were? These are just teams that we know are interested.
Well, now he can do something as we approach November, legally at least. I think you can make a case in any of the three decisions. He goes somewhere else. He comes back to Milwaukee. He spends time with his family, takes some time off. And I think he's shown in his actions he cares deeply about his family. He cares deeply about Wisconsin and Milwaukee. And I think he's a very competitive guy who cares very deeply about having the chance to win a World Series as a manager. He knows he's regarded as a great manager. He's recognized as Manager of the Year. I have to believe he wants to compete to win a World Series as a manager. Does he think his best chance there is with the Mets or the Guardians? If it's with the Mets, I think he considers that strong.
It's familiar there. David Stearns is the president of baseball operations, obviously held that position here at the Brewers. The Astros lose Dusty Baker, who retires, Lily. Is that another avenue? Because that's another team that has won. It was a game away from getting to the World Series this year. Does that seem to be a place he could land?
Potentially, if they're interested and vice versa. But when you're looking at a team as a whole, like Tim mentioned, this is a team that has the players available, the pitching, they have the hitting, they have everything available, minus a manager that can take them to that next step in the World Series. So if they are interested and Craig Counsell does interview, I mean, this will be a good fit, I think, because, again, this is a team set up for success in the postseason. They have proven star players, and it seems like he could be a clubhouse he could certainly manage. So if he is wanting to win a World Series in that route, the Astros will be a pretty good team to go to.
All right, we'll have to see what happens there. The Badgers, they showed up against Ohio State. You were at that game. The one thing, though, Braylon Allen leaves injured right before halftime. How big is this injury, and what do you think this means for the future of this team, just even next week against Indiana?
Right. When you're talking about the Badgers, right, traditionally they have a team with really, really talented running backs. Ches Malusi goes down, and then you have Braylon Allen, who gets injured on a shovel pass deep in their own territories. They try to score a touchdown, and he's down for a little bit, walks off limping. We saw him in a walking boot after the game, but losing him doesn't help because he's one of these. He's a leader on this team. He's a guy who can really break lots of big runs and get this offense back on track if their passing attack isn't really working. So without him on the field, how do they try and compensate with that? You have Aker, the backup running back, who's doing his job, but he doesn't have that breakout ability that Braylon does have. So we'll see the extent of that injury and how long he will be out. But losing him for a while will be big. Yeah,
I think that could affect them in a big way if he's not on the field. Well, let's check in on our Insta poll question. You can go to it by scanning this code or going to our website, fox6now.com. Let's take a look at your answers. And right now, many of you are blaming Brian Gutekunst for the situation the Packers are in after losing 4 straight. We will have more of your answers when we come back. Coming up next, our high school hotshot.
Welcome back. She was introduced to the sport by one of her freshman teachers, and now she's one of the top players on this relatively new team as they continue to navigate a high level of success. And that is why she is this week's Fox 6 High School Hotshot.
Hello, my name is Paige Smolik. I am a senior at Hamilton High School and I play rugby. Initially, I didn't know what rugby was. I was just a little scared because it seems like such a brutal sport and it seems scary, like having people come at you and all you have is a mouth guard. The first hit I remember is in our very first game. This girl was running away from me and I was like, this is my first tackle, I'm gonna get this. And getting up after that tackle was like one of the best feelings ever, almost. Ever since then, I've just been trying to almost like a runner's high, trying to chase that high in tackles. Well, for the past 2 years, we've been state champs in sevens. We were runners-up in the 15 season. I believe last year we got 6th nationally, and then the year before that we were 5th nationally. I really enjoy being a part of the start of Hamilton rugby. It's been a big part of my life, and I plan on continuing rugby in college. I'm looking at Winona State and Grand Canyon University, and they both have very good D1 girls rugby teams. Also watching the Olympics and stuff, that's really inspiring. Well, the first tournament I went to, there were a lot of injuries. So my parents, seeing that, they were a little bit scared going into me playing rugby. They're like, oh no, what is my child getting into? Well, I'm also in musical theater. It's helped me find another passion of mine, acting and singing. I'm also in the choir at Hamilton. I play piano as well. I really enjoy music. It's kind of a passion of mine along with rugby. Being able to sing and dance and act all at the same time is a lot of fun, and I get to do it with a lot of my friends. Well, in 2nd grade, we got chickens, mainly just for the eggs. We don't actually eat the chickens. Now we currently have 8 roaming around our backyard. We get the eggs and scramble them up. My name is Paige Smolik. I am a senior and I am a captain on the Hamilton rugby team. And I am this week's Fox 6 High School Hotshot.
And outside of rugby, Paige says her favorite stage role was Marion, the librarian in The Music Man. And of course, with rugby, the Chargers finished the 15 season this weekend by competing against the Green Bay Banshees. Meanwhile, the football playoffs continue to provide plenty of highlights, and that includes our Level 2 Play of the Week. Sussex Hamilton's Nick Kinn lays out for the unbelievable catch there. What a snag. And the Chargers will now take on Verona in Level 3 of the playoffs. And speaking of Level 3, here's our lineup for the Fox 6 High School Blitz on Friday night. We'll be at Verona and Hamilton. And of course, our in Division 1, Franklin and Muskego will be featured as our game of the week. We'll also highlight Fond du Lac and Marquette, Badger versus Kettle Moraine in Division 2, and Lakeside Lutheran versus Catholic Memorial in Division 4. And up next, we'll take a look at the week ahead. Keep it here.
Lots of blame to go around on the Fox 6 Sports Blitz Insta poll. The offense getting the big questions right now from our viewers. Thank you for participating. We'll see if the offense or Brian Gutekunst do anything this week. It's trade deadline, and then it's the Rams coming to Lambeau.
And the Badgers head over to Indiana. We don't know the status of Braylon Allen. We might find out tomorrow.
And the Bucks continue their busy week. It's going to be a fun one tomorrow night at Fiserv Forum as they take on the Heat.
And that last game there Friday, in-season tournament. Whoa, bring it on!
We'll be there full force.
Or something like that. Thanks for blitzing with us tonight. See you.